And we're live. Welcome to the Dr. Stevil Show. I'm your host, Dr. Stevil. Today's guest is a strength and conditioning specialist, professional wrestler, and actor who played several iconic roles in the television documentary series called Dark Side of the Ring. Welcome back to the show, Rob Rage Thompson.
What's going on, Steve? How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Trying to survive this virus like anyone else.
Yeah, it looks like we're at the tail end. Things are opening up. The sun is shining. Things are getting brighter, right? So it looks like we've made we're in the home stretch.
Yeah, so far, a lot of people saying that we might have a second wave because everyone's going to get together, but yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess.
Yeah.
It's time to enjoy the good things in life. Like yesterday, I actually enjoyed the sunshine, which was kind of nice, considering we had a weekend full of rain, which really kept us inside.
Yeah, man. That's as soon as I'm done with you, I'm heading out with the dog.
Nice.
I'm going to the park because they're open now, right? So.
All right, cool. I just saw the last episode of Dark Side of the Ring last night with Owen Hart, and I thought that was well done. And I think that it just might overpass the Road Warriors one because I think he's a bit more popular. But right now, your episode, The Road Warriors, is the second highest rating of the series.
Right. So the funny thing, so the producer, I just watched the podcast about it, and the producers were putting out feelers when they were doing the second season, because nothing was written in stone in terms of what they wanted to do. And obviously the Benoit story was number one, which wanted to be talked. Number two was the Owen Hart, right? So, and then this time too, the interesting aspect of it too, and there I was just watching a little bit of their live broadcast a little bit ago. They were talking about, this episode, it didn't have Bret Hart in it. He wasn't a big fan of what happened with the Montreal Screwjob in real life and with the Dark Side of the Ring as well. So obviously, but so they tried contacting him, but it gave a platform for Martha to tell her story from her perspective, right? So I think it was a different aspect, and I think it was. We all know. We've heard, how Bret feels about it. We've heard how a lot of the wrestlers feel about it. And, Owen Hart was so revered and loved, and he was such an incredible talent, right? But this is one of the biggest stories ever, that ever happened. Like in entertainment, when has a person died live on a live TV show, right? And because of error. And it's never happened. I remember watching it live back when it happened. It's like, wow, that they couldn't have faked that, right? And then I remember watching it with a bunch of buddies, and we're like, that doesn't seem right. And then the way they were scrambling.
What did you see? Like I didn't get a chance to see that pay-per-view. But what did you see while you were watching? What did you see on the screen?
It was like just chaos, right? So they try to pan away from it, and I remember they try to pan away from it, and they try not to focus on it and try not to talk about it, and then they rushed him out really quickly, right? That's from what I remember, and we're like, this not right, because if it was if it was something planned, it would have been on the screen. They would have focused on it, and they would have they would have had commentary about. But they were like, whoa, they're trying to clean it up as quick as they can, and then obviously they didn't stop the broadcast. Obviously they made mistakes, and they've learned.
It's a tough call.
Oh well, I mean,
if I'm running the show, I wouldn't know what to do. It's a tough call either way. You do or you don't.
It's a situation, especially at that time. What do you do? That's never happened before. No one's ever died on live TV like that, right? And it's never happened. So what do you do? What's the protocols, right? So even with Jerry Lawler when he had the heart attack live on TV, what's the protocol in that, right? So they just stopped talking, and they continue to show. But obviously, everybody knew something happened, and then again, everybody knew something happened. You didn't know until later on the extent of what happened, right? So, it was just like, wow. And then of course, like Owen Hart was one of my favorites, and he was just such an incredible performer, and he could do everything, right? So he could do any type of match, and he was just so gifted. And so, like, here's a guy that you could easily say he probably would have been a world champion, easily a Hall of Famer, right? So, and he had so many years left to go in his career. So, and again, like I said, the producers, they were actually putting a survey together, and obviously the Benoit story was number one. Owen Hart was right there with number two. So, and it's a story that's unresolved still. It's something. It's kind of like the Benoit story. It's something that it's still unresolved in terms of how it's dealt with within wrestling and entertainment. And there's the Owen Hart's widow obviously doesn't want anything to do with the WWE, doesn't want anything to do with the Hall of Fame, and that's her prerogative, and that's her right. And so it would be nice, because I think it'd be a great thing for the fans to honor them. I understand her feelings towards the WWE, but it'd be a big thing for Owen, and I think everybody who has a career like that would love to be recognized by the fans and by their peers for that. And I know, like, if that was to ever happen, the stories and line up would be great as well.
Someone got you wrong, but he says it's Animal. Can you blur his camera so I can be sure? Well, Robert, no. It's actually Hawk.
Yeah, it was Hawk, right? So what a rush, that's who I played in the Dark Side of the Ring. So that was one episode, the Road Warriors of that. So
how did you get started in all this? How did you get involved with Vice?
Well, the funny thing was, so the Vice Studios the Vice Canada Studios is in Liberty Village, and it's literally like a 2-second walk from the Superkick Studios. So I know the guys, the producer and the director they went over to Superkick, and they were asking Chris Chambers, the guy, the owner of Superkick and head trainer there, about potentially if he could help bring some guys in to do the background roles or the roles that we eventually play. And it was the episode, the Macho Man episode, the Match Made in Heaven. They were looking for a guy for Lex Luger, and so Chris Chambers messaged me. I messaged the Vice guys. They brought me in, and we talked, and talked about my background and what I actually do and my knowledge about the wrestling, and we really hit it off. We had a great conversation, and he's like, the producer Jason is like, the director Jason, he's like, I don't think you're going to be Lex Luger. I'm like, oh, well, that's disappointing. He's like, I think you're going to be Hulk Hogan. I'm like, whoa, even better, right? So they brought me in for that episode as Hulk Hogan, and so one thing I like about these documentaries, they use a combination between live footage, interview footage, and then they do the reenactment, which I think really helps with the storytelling.
All right. Yeah, speaking of Hulk Hogan, I'm just going to try something right here. And let's see if this is the Hulk Hogan one. Nope.
No, that's
Sorry, we'll go with this one. Yeah. My bad. And so is that one. So we'll go here then. And this is you, right? As the Hulkster. Look at you go, buddy.
See it, but
oh, you can't?
No, I can't see it. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Stop sharing the screen just now. Okay, because normally when it plays, It shows on the screen. You can see what I see. So it didn't
No, I
show
just
it.
showed the first one. You can play it. Go ahead. We can talk about it, right? So yeah, so they did a lot of different footage. If you go to the darker side of the ring, they've made some video clips to the soundtrack. They're actually selling the soundtrack to the
Right.
series. So they did the match made in heaven. Several clips of me with the Macho Man and Liz and the Mega Powers and telling that whole story. So that's how that's how I got involved with that, was with that episode. And then anytime that they're going to use Hulk Hogan in the documentary or in the Dark Side of the Ring, they brought me back for Hulk Hogan, and then of course they brought me in for Hawk as well, for Road Warrior Hawk.
Yeah. When I said you were doing Hogan, I mean, I was happy for you, but your body's not like his. Your body is more ripped and more defined than Hogan. You made him look better, in my opinion.
So yeah, that's the best back. Hogan's back never looked as good, right? So especially with those traps and back shots, right? So, but
Right.
yeah, again, and it's no secret, I used to do the Road Warrior Rage character, blatant rip off of Hawk. The quick background of it, and yeah, just
On
tune
just
in.
that.
That's from the dark side. Yeah. So, but I did definitely do the Road Warrior gimmick as a wrestling, and then we told a little bit of this story in the last broadcast I was on. But the reason why that came to an end, I was at Tiger Fest in Brampton, where we're in front of 5,000 people in Canada Day, and I'm wrestling Bushwhacker Luke, and then. What you call it? One of the fans took a picture of me, and you recorded the video as well, as I was doing the hawk pose. That's dressed up as a fake hawk, and Animal didn't like it too much, but we talked about it, smoothed it over, and a lot of good things happen as a result of it.
Yeah, I also met that. I also met the animal. He's quite a decent person. Well, really well spoken, and I wasn't freaking scared of him like I thought I would be if I went to talk to him. Pretty
Well,
decent
again,
guy.
when I smoothed it over with him, you were actually there at the Comic-Con in Mississauga when we did that. We actually got some footage where I'm posing with the shoulder pads with Animal, right? So we had a great conversation. Joe's a professional. He's a businessman, and he's an icon and legend in the business. And the reason why the Road Warrior episode was so popular is because the Road Warriors were you know larger than life. They were a main attraction. They got main event status as a tag team, which no other tag team has ever done. Maybe with exception of the Rock and Roll Express, but no one has ever got the notoriety as a tag team like they did. I mean, like they would sell out because people came to see the Road Warriors. I mean, the face paint, these two guys are just jacked and massive, and they're tossing guys around. They come out with the spike shoulder pads, and they were just so unique and so different. And there was such an energy towards them, and then the crowd just would work up in a fever for them, and it was crazy.
Well,
Oh,
here's
there's the
your Hulk
leg drop.
Hogan
Yeah.
one.
There it is. There's the leg drop. Right. That's from the the David Schultz episode, and an epic leg drop. Yeah, with the hair. So they tried to make me like mid '80s Hogan, receding hair, and so they had to like. I mean, I'll have to send you some pictures another time, but like it just looks so bad, like in person, but on camera it looks great. But man, I'm tanned
I saw
up.
some of the pics. It was
And
quite
it's big
comical.
pics, and they have the hair receding, and it was just a mess. They glued it on, and it was great.
Um,
Um,
Ryan
yeah,
Knight asks, "What was the general atmosphere on set, dealing with such telling stories? I'm curious on the general mindset while recreating some of the moments."
Well, here's the thing is that, like the the producer and director, they're both humongous wrestling fans. This has been a huge passion of theirs, right? So, they love wrestling. In fact, they got involved in the one of them played Jimmy Hart in the Dino Bravo episode, right? And so there's little clips of them being involved here and there throughout the series. But it's, and the guys, majority of the guys they brought in were indie wrestlers, right? So, like myself, um, playing a specific role. So obviously we're all fans too, and we're all, passionate about the business and the history of the business. So it was a good atmosphere on set because a lot of the people knew each other and familiar with each other, and the staff and the set crew were phenomenal. They were small sets crew, but they were really phenomenal in terms of what they were able to do, and the mindset was great. And then also too, there was, you know, being a wrestler, being in the business, right, and then telling these stories about all these icons in the business, there is a responsibility of getting it right and portraying it in a way that doesn't disrespect them, and so that was the mindset, is to get it right, make it look great, and then go with what is being told, right? So the big aspect of it is we're recreating scenes from what is being told by specific people throughout the documentary, right? So, with the Road Warrior episodes, whether it be Joe talking about it, or Paul Erling, or any of the guys they brought in, like Scott Norton, or Nikita Koloff, right? So, Barry Darso, right? Barry Darso is such a great guy. I've worked with him a few times as there we go. That's Hawk as the NWA. So we covered the pre, as they were starting out, how they got together, the beginning of the Road Warriors, and then the NWA, and then WWF, Hawk's problems with substance abuse, how they.
Oh, I'm curious, did you know all about this before going in, or did you learn as you were filming?
No, I knew a lot of the stories. I knew a lot. There was some stuff that I had no idea, right? So that's pretty private, and you don't know that his how many times he actually avoided death, right? So his heart stopped several times. He actually got in a car accident, flipped his car like 10 times and walked away from it, right? He just so and then the tragedy about all this is when he actually got everything all better in his life, and of course he dies of a heart attack, a massive heart failure, right? So and just because of all the years of abuse that he put on his heart, right? But the big thing is too, what really made clear from seeing it is how well, how well he was loved and revered by fans, but really from all the other guys, that they really loved Mike, and they loved Hawk. They loved who he was as a person, and he was really genuine, and he had his problems and his demons, but he was the type of guy that literally would give you the shirt off his back, right? And
Listening to the beginning of the story, he was a troublemaker. He liked to get into fights, and by the end of his career, apparently he turned that rage into something that people just enjoyed and respected, which is kind of
Here's the
interesting.
funny thing too, and I really resonate with Hawk because, and the irony is, my life really parallels Hawk's life, right? Yes, I was involved in football and pro football, but I was the type of guy that was always in trouble. I was always fighting. I wasn't a bully. I just was always fighting. Rage is not a gimmick, right? It was given to me by Flesh Gordon, my good buddy Paul, and it's from bouncing. And I used to really lose it on people and really beat the crap out of them. And especially as bouncing, that's where I got it from. And the bouncing stories that they had, it just parallels everything about me too, right? It was really an irony. It was, you know, it was like, you know, he was working at a tough bar, and they used to grab guys and toss them and see how far they could toss them and mark it off, right? And I was honest with you, you know, I used to work at a place called Sugar Daddy's in Mississauga, and it was just a, you know, it was just a bad club and not the greatest clientele. And they used to have a canopy with double doors, and I used to run guys out the double doors. And my buddy Paul was at the front door, and I would launch him, and I'd try to launch him out the front door into the front bar of the canopy and hit them. Also, too, would also launch him, see how far we could throw it, and we used to mark it off. And that's even well before I used to, you know. But and then, you know, getting into obviously the weight training and the you know, the bodybuilding, being big guys, and then obviously the wrestling business, and, you know, like, you know, if you ever see me wrestle, right, which you have, you know, there's a lot of hawk in me when I wrestle, right? So pick guys up and throw them, and, you know, big clotheslines and clubs, you know, because that's who I am. I'm a big guy, and, you know, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not a finesse guy. You know, I've been in some real life dangerous situations at clubs and bars and bouncing, and, you know, dealing with really bad people. So legitimately, I, you know, just like hockey used to be known as one of the baddest guys on the side of the tracks, where Scott Norton was the other baddest guy on the tracks. And if you see Scott Norton, you can understand why. When you're looking at Road Warrior Hawk, you can understand why he was one of the baddest guys out there, right? So, you know, the whole crew, man, those guys from Minnesota, you didn't mess with them, right? So you had, you know, Scott Norton. They all wound up working together and bouncing at Scott Norton, Barry Darsow, Rick Rude, Kurt Hennig, you know,
Wow.
you know, Hawk, Animal. Like, imagine dealing with those guys at a bar, right? If you stepped out of line, like, I wouldn't step out of line in a place that they were working at, right? So they were all there at the same time, and they broke in. Like, they got like a Hall of Fame list there going on, but they were all tough guys. They're all really tough guys, right? So
Where do you
legitimately.
think they'd be right now if they didn't have wrestling to channel
Well,
their talent
I'm
anger?
pretty sure, you know, again, you don't know how life breaks out, but, you know, they obviously, you know, they touched on it. They actually quit for a little bit after they first started, because they weren't getting paid
Right.
much. They went back to bouncing, and, you know, that's probably where Hawk would have probably stayed long term, you know, because it actually, you know, telling from what his brothers are saying, that, you know, that's what fit him, you know. You know, I think Joe, more level headed, probably would have found other courses and ways to taking care of his young family at the time. But, you know, those guys were made to be in the wrestling business. You know,
Oh, for
like,
sure.
they're just big jacked up freaks, and, you know, with, you know, tons of charisma, and, you know, and then add the face paint and the spike shoulder pads, and it was a no brainer, right? So, you know, they were born to be in that business.
Yeah, even watching their old matches again, the level, the height they got on just like a simple like leg drop, or, you know, or just when they just want to like jump on someone, they freaking just launched themselves. It just made it
Well,
look that much more aggressive.
right. So they
You
were
don't
like,
see
you
that
know,
much anymore.
for big guys, they're doing drop kicks, and, you know, like, they're flying shoulder tackles. They're pretty athletic, right? So they were massive dudes who could lift a lot, but they could move too, right? Which is really scary. You know, when you got guys that big that can move, like, they're legitimate, right? And, like, they're legitimate tough guys, right? So, you know, they can more than handle themselves against anybody else, right? So, and then here's the thing, wrestling business, you know, wrestling fans, you know, people recognize when people are genuine, and they can smell a phony from like from a mile away. So
Right.
someone comes out pretending to be a badass, it doesn't resonate, because, you know what, you know, it's there's
New team out there that reminds him of LOD, the Viking Raiders.
yeah,
Not
we'll
so
get to
much.
that in a second. But when someone is legit, you know, and genuine, it comes across. So everybody knew they were badasses, right? Guys wouldn't mess with them, but very few. the guys stand up to him, but they're bad dudes, like they're badass dudes, and the fans recognize that, right? Do the Viking Raiders come across as LOD? No. I mean, with the only thing maybe with the face paint and the the spikes and stuff, but I mean personally, I wish they were still called War Machine. I wish they kept that name, or at least the War Raiders, as they originally were in NXT. But what I think, they're two big dudes that we just said that can do really phenomenal stuff, right? I wish they would do less, because they're just so big. They don't need to do a lot of the stuff they do. I think if they just impose their physicality, I think they'd be far more. They're already over, but if they just impose more of their physicality on teams, because there's just not many guys with that type of size anymore, right? Totally different game. And they just smash some guys all over the place. I mean, if they're up against guys similar size, then they can start using a little bit more of the aerial stuff and athleticism. But I think they'd be more over with fans if they just beat the living crap out of people. And that's, that's why the Legion of Doom or the Road Warriors are so over, right? They just go in and beat the living piss out of people, right? And people love that. They love to see that, right? Two guys that are like that, they just, beat them up, throw them around, all right, doomsday device, yay, right? That's what they want to see, right? So, and if the guys, and if it's guys like Arn and Tully with big mouths, right? So, and then they want to see them get beat, right? Beat up, or the Midnight Express, or with Jim Cornette. You just want to smash those guys, right? And then here comes the Road Warriors. It's like, all right, this is what we're gonna get, right? And then
we have one of our fans from Canada.
Steve-O is afraid of rage, as he should be.
I was. There's one time I was you were fighting my guy, Priest, and then they said that we're up against you. I was frightened. I was like, yeah, I know you behind the scenes, but in the ring, it's like I want nothing to do with you.
Different story, man. Look, once across that line, different. And then that's when the beast is unleashed, right? So
that's right. Anything goes, and I found that out the hard way. I think you broke a couple ribs that time, but you let me off easy.
Yeah, that's a light day at the office if that's the case.
Yeah, pretty well. Chad, too bad. Now when you're doing was it a dream come true to actually play Mike Hawk? Because you look like him, you had the
hair, like
you had to do it on TV, right?
Well, I mean, to be involved in something like that when you're a massive fan, I mean, like you're dressed up as the Road Warriors, right? And I was years ago, was for Halloween. This is how I actually did the Road Warrior gimmick initially. Years ago, how I was Hawk for Halloween. I made my own shoulder pads as a face paint, and it was awesome. We went out, I remember, downtown Toronto as the Legion of Doom, and like every guy, and this was years ago, like every guy over like 30 was like, wow, but everybody under 30 didn't get it, or none of the women got it. So like, what is that supposed to be? Right. But like, it's the Road Warriors, right? So, again, he was one of my favorites growing up. I mean, even just playing Hogan, like that's like coming out to I'm a Real American, and I've got some pictures on my Instagram, Rage Rob Thompson, and also on my Facebook, Rob Rage Thompson, where I'm dressed up with Mr. T. That's my childhood right there, man. That's rock and wrestling. That's Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. That's the Road Warriors. I mean, that's how awesome is that? And like, I was sitting there and like, this is amazing. I'd be taking pictures and sending it to everybody. Like, don't post this, but this is, and everybody's like, oh, that's badass. I'm like, yeah. Like, look at these shoulder pads. These are amazing. It was like, they had the NWA shoulder pads. They had the red and black ones, right, from the WWF era. They had all the different costumes. It was just awesome. The face paint, right? And it was like, this is amazing, right? So, we use the term marking out. That means in our business, that's being a fan. I mean, that's how we started, is being a fan. Like I grew up, idolizing these guys. When I was young, I used to watch a lot of NWA Jim Crockett Promotions, right? WCW Saturday Night, right, on TBS, right? So I watch that more so than the WWE, right? The WWF, right? So these are my guys, right? So this is from the Rock video, this from the soundtrack release, the clip release. So,
Yeah,
you know, they
sadly,
took
we don't have the sound, so you keep going.
yeah, so they got the clips, right? So that's available to order if you go to the Dark Side of the Ring. You can get it on vinyl as well. So they're selling the
Huge.
soundtrack, right? So these are just clips from, and again, it just adds to the storytelling, right? So, you know, they didn't have to really darken my face a lot, and because you know we do look alike. So, you know, there's some great action scenes, and you know, again, me throwing the clotheslines. This is what I do. You know, you see me wrestle. This is what I do, right? So,
For
you know,
sure.
and then there's a great like these are you know pics of the story of the van. So, and then the bouncing, right? So, you know, when they first got started with Paul Ellering, you know, he took them around in a van, and then he wound up, you know, when they died, they did that. They went to the Hawk's funeral in that original van, right? So we just saw a video, the clip of Vince McMahon taking the Doomsday device at a strippers club, right? So
Right.
if someone who really tells it well, if you go to Bret Hart's Hall of Fame speech, he actually told the
Right.
story of the Hall of Fame speech, right? So, you know, Hulk Hogan apparently was stirring some things up. McMahon was all tuned up with liquor, and so all the guys start giving them their finishers at a strip club, right? So, you know, but for that story, go watch Owen Hart's Hall of Fame speech. I actually saw it again. I haven't seen it for a while, and actually, just for some reason, it came up, and I'm like, oh, I'll watch it, right? And I was like, oh my god, I just you know wound up talking about that, and we're talking about how they kind of caught McMahon with the Doomsday device for obvious reasons, and then you know Bret Hart was like, man, I got to get out of here because they're gonna, and then Anvil's like, Hart Foundation would have done it for real, and then they actually did it. Hey, you know, Anvil picked him up, and Hogan's looking at Bret. Well, you going to do something or what? And he's like, ah, crap, and he did the heart attack. And the next thing you know, they're all giving them finishers, right? So, but these are the stories you hear, right? So this is the behind the scenes stuff that you know it's known through the boys, right? And to hear that, I mean, I think the you know we all love the actual in-ring stuff, but you know what's come to be a lot of popular nowadays is a lot of behind the scenes stuff, right? We want to know how everything all works together, right? So that's why there's no kayfabe or you know protecting things anymore, because the fans are just as interested in what goes on behind the scenes with the writing, with the politics, with the you know, with the what's going on backstage with people than they are with the in-ring stuff, right? So there's no
Yeah, those
wonder
my
why these stories are as popular as they are.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the stories when I read Mick Foley's book, Bret Hart's book, Jericho's book. Is all the behind the scenes stuff is what really got me, because you know the situation, but then afterwards, like, oh, that happened during this time, and we can relate because we're fans at this time.
Right. So I mean, so we all watched it, right? And you're like, oh, this is why that happened. You
Yeah,
know, this is why you know you remember certain things, right? Why you know it didn't come across the way it did, or why it was even better than it actually should have been, right? So right. So you hear like, and again, it's just and you can't make this stuff up, right? So like you just can't write that, a president like the owner of a multi-million-dollar company, entertainment company, is tuned up at a strip bar and taking wrestling finishers from some of the biggest, baddest dudes there are, right? You just can't make that up, right? It actually happened, right? So these stories actually happen. You just can't make it up, and that's what's entertaining about it, and that's what's really resonates with a lot of people.
for sure, for sure. Whoa, who played Animal? Your
So
buddy,
it was a bodybuilder from Oshawa. His name is Remo.
right?
Big guy. Had a very similar look to Joe. right? So, we actually had to teach him how to do some moves in the ring so he could
Okay.
do how to do the certain things. Yeah. So, you got a crash course to do some stuff on camera. And then we actually worked with a lot of the scenes with Diener's tag team partner, cousin Jake, right,
Right.
from Impact Wrestling. So he was heavily involved in that. He did me the favors a lot. I pounded on him quite a bit for a lot of those scenes. Those clotheslines, I was giving it to him, so thank you, Jake, right? So thank you, cousin Jake, for taking all those clotheslines, and he took a suplex for me, and I beat him up repeatedly in the bar scenes too, right? So, so it was, again, you had some really good people on set, so it was well worth it.
And you were talking about behind the scenes earlier. How about behind the scenes on set?
It
Have you
was, we didn't have a lot of time. So the big thing with this is they didn't have a lot of time to put it all together. It didn't help too that we just got this done. We finished filming March 15th around that time. And that was just as the whole COVID thing was really breaking out, right? And they still had to do Owen Hart's finishing that up, right? So we did 3 days, 12 hours. You're only allowed 12 hours max on a set, because especially with a lot of the union rules they have with the camera crew and the technicians. But man, we were there. I was there 2 hours prior, getting makeup and all that stuff done, and then we were on there until 12 hours filming and try to get it all done, right? So like I said, it was a really cool atmosphere. I mean, we all had fun shooting it. When the producers and people on the film, when you're all like, yeah, that was awesome, you're having a great time, and everybody had a great time shooting this stuff, because again, everybody on that set was a wrestling fan, and
okay.
it just was like, man, every time this brings us back to my childhood. And those guys are posting stuff on Instagram, live edits, right, and about what's going on and filming, because they're just so excited about it, right? I remember the first season we start doing that, and we got a little bit of trouble. Vice is like, no, you can't do it until it's released, and they kind of laxed it this year because they wanted to, they saw how much, again, when people are having a good time, it comes across, right? And people want to be involved in that, and people see you having a good time and enjoying stuff. It creates hype and buzz, and then releasing these little snippets here and there makes people want to tune in, and they did, right? So,
For sure.
and then, yeah, and like I said, we like, I don't know how many times, like, I come out, I do, what a rush, or I'm sitting there doing this, and they're like, oh, that's cool. They had the Starcade, they had the Skywalker set where the glowing stairs, and that's something
Right, yeah.
they always wanted to do, get it on film, and they actually did it. And we're walking down the stairs with the flashing, and the big that was from Starcade, and that was really cool. I mean, like, because I remember watching that pay-per-view, right, and it was like, man, this is my childhood. This is how cool is this? I'm coming down as Hawk, NWA Hawk, on flashing stairs, and I know where this was leading to, right? So it was really cool.
For sure. Hey, there's that scene where you and Animal had that guy over the railing.
So that's
The
something
story
I
behind
didn't
that,
know. So
right?
that's something that's a great story. That's something I didn't know, but I can definitely resonate with some of my personal experiences working for club owners and shady people in the bouncing industry, right? But yeah, so we filmed that, and and then the funny thing is, like, we tried everything we're shaking that guy, and then his cowboy hat wouldn't fall off. We're like, how's it, like, everything else is coming out of his pants, like all of, but the cowboy, but that's something they didn't know, right? So that just adds to it, and again, that just adds to the fact they were legitimate badasses, right? So they would go collect money for guys, right? So that it sums up who they were, and even though they're great guys, but you didn't want to mess with them because they were legitimate bad guys, like badasses, right? So yeah, so that's a great scene. And like I said, the stories that were told about where they came from, it just it just set up who they were going to be as wrestlers, right?
Right. We got another Chad ask you. So it's a long one. Okay, on the serious side, Rage. I know you. What I know you love what you do, and I know how much you love making or working out and getting in shape. Do you ever think of making it big time to AEW, BCW, or Impact or WWE?
Well, I've done some stuff with Impact before. I've done some other stuff, and it's just, yeah. Hi, I'd love to be in the
Same.
WWE. I'd love to be getting ready for a Friday Night SmackDown. Sure. I mean, it's just opportunity, and you just keep working. And I'm a little older now, so that window might be closing, but I'll never say it's closed. But I get to work with some tremendous wrestlers, big names. I've worked with several big names, and I continue to do that. So, obviously, I always want to be at the top echelon of what you want to do. But I do pretty well with who I wrestle, and you got to be grateful for what you're doing, and that will open up the paths to bigger things to come. Of course, I would love to any opportunity take advantage of that, and when the opportunity knocks, I'll be ready.
For sure, and you're doing a good job. You are one of the most popular people in Southwestern Ontario in the indie wrestling circuit. Everyone knows who you are. I mean, the first time I worked with you, my buddy Al's going, "Oh, that's Rage." I'm like, like no, it's the first time I saw you, right, in the indie thing. So, like a lot of people that have no connection to that London Comic Con knew who you were, even with the green face paint on. It was
Yeah. We told a funny story about that. Is my car broke down on the way home, and I was stuck. I had the face paint on and all the green paint. I looked like more like Shrek than I did Hulk, but I'm totally flipping out on the side of the highway. People were staring, driving by, like, what the hell's going on? This green man, this big angry green man, is like kicking his car, and it's like steaming hot. Yeah, so yeah. Again, you just can't make this stuff up, man. What happens in wrestling, you can't make it up, right? So the stories continue, whether it's from WWE, indie wrestling, right? Some of the stuff that happens, you're just like, is this for real? This actually just happened, right? So,
like the time I managed you against Cody Deaner, I pulled the ref out right before the 3 count, and the fan attacked me.
yeah, the fans were attacking, right? So and that's and then afterwards we're sitting there. That's awesome.
Yeah, you and Cody thought so. You guys were laughing your asses off, going, "That's awesome heat." And I'm like,
Yeah, like, yeah, I mean, it's not the first time. I mean, I'm sitting there. I remember doing a Team Canada angle in Buffalo at the Riverworks with you remember Professional, and man, like legitimate heat. Right, we're doing and beer being tossed at us, and cans and garbage, and I'm sitting there, and like we're looking at each other like, yeah, this is great because it's working, right? So that's what you want, right? They forget for a second that you make them believe to the point where they're that legitimately mad. That's what you want, or they're that legitimately happy or excited. That's what you want too, right?
Yeah, cool. And we have a fan here. My
We got
kid
Mark.
loves
Yeah,
Rage.
Mark. Thank you very much. Yeah, we definitely love. We love you when you come to the shows, and we do definitely love you when your kids come to the shows. Yeah, so much appreciated.
Cool. Now I've noticed I read your IMDb. You've got 5 credits, so you'll probably get an extra credit for doing, Mike. But you've been in a movie called
The Masked Saint. Yeah.
The Last Saint, yeah, with Roddy Piper.
Yeah. So The Masked Saint with Roddy Piper. Excuse me, sorry, I'm just gonna have to plug in this.
Otherwise, you go blank.
It kills my phone. The battery in my phone. But yeah, so that was in 2015. It was a feature film. It is available on Netflix.
Right. We can still hear you.
Okay, what is it?
It's just the visual, but we can still hear you.
Okay, That's weird how that happened.
Right?
All
I
right,
know.
so yeah, so it was 2015. We did the movie with the Masked Saint. I did it with a bunch of indie guys. Jordan Marquez from Lucha TO, and obviously Rob Fuego helped a lot on that. We went up to Sudbury and we filmed it. It was about a guy from the Northeast, from Michigan, uh, who wrestled in the old territory days, and he actually was a pastor, and he would also fight crime too, apparently, as a pastor, right? So, you know, he stood up to some bad people in his neighborhood, but he would wrestle to help out his parish, right? He would do the wrestling shows to keep his parish going for quite some time. So it was a great story, and I got to spend a lot of time with Roddy Piper. It was the wasn't the first time I did something with him. We did a pilot called Body Slam. Uh,
Okay.
uh, it was if you can YouTube it, it was a pilot, and it was intended to be about Niagara Falls, the old territory days, and it actually
Okay.
got picked up, but with Roddy Piper dying, they dropped it, right? Because Roddy Piper was supposed to be a big part of it. We filmed it with Bret Hart. Yeah. So RJ Singh was in that. James
Right
Preston
on.
Rogers is a guy from the 2000s, but he's also a Hollywood actor as well. He's from around here. We again, RJ Singh, James Preston Rogers was also in the Masked Saint as well. Yeah, so and then along with Roddy Piper, so we actually helped train Bret, the not Bret Hart, but the actor, the Masked Saint, at Squared Circle, and we did all the work with him prior to that, a few weeks before going up. We got him ring ready enough to do the moves, and yeah, I played Titan in that role. So it was a great experience, and so I've done some other stuff. I've done some Playmakers, real like a ESPN show called Playmakers years ago. It was about pro football. They filmed it in Toronto. But yeah, I've done a lot of stuff like that.
I was in Burlington Mark's work warehouse, and I was watching the screen. I was paying for my shoes that I'm buying, and who do I see? You.
Yeah, so that was fun too, right? Because when they put the call out for wrestlers for commercials, it's the same guys that always go, right? And I show up, and I actually auditioned with Cody Diener, and we actually had a great audition. He didn't get it, but he's like, "You're gonna get it." And then I can't remember his name, but the guy who did get it, he's been around for quite some time too. He's a smaller guy, and but he again in the commercial, he's a Rob Swift. There we go, Rob Swift. Was his wrestling name, and but he sold it really well, and so the actual cut that made the commercial was improv, right? So that part where I kiss my biceps, right? I actually did that, and all of a sudden, they're like, "Just do what you want," and and I did that, and all of a sudden, you hear upstairs in the producer room a big thing of laughter, and they're like, the head producer comes running out. She goes, "Do that again," right? And that's what they went with for the commercial. Yeah, so that was fun. So putting the guy up in the torture rack, it was great.
It's stuff like that we pick up as fans from years of watching wrestling, because the first time I saw that was Rick Rude do that, and then every other time, we copy it. It just becomes
Yeah,
a natural part of what we know, right? As part of
yeah,
the entertainment industry.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Well, it becomes again, you take from what you like, and then,
Hmm.
Rick Rude, again, one of those Minnesota guys, is one of my favorites, right? So him and Kurt Hennig, that's it's those are some of my favorite wrestlers. So and because I am a body guy, I like to throw a little Rick Rude in every once in a while too, because he was, again, either he's a Hall of Famer for a reason, and everybody remembers him for a reason, because he was so unbelievably good, right? So he was just incredible, right? So there's a guy that had the look, had the it factor. He could do everything. and he was just he was just that slime ball weasel, but jacked up, and you love to see him get his face kicked in by guys like the Ultimate Warrior and stuff like that. But at the same time too, you liked them, right? Because he was such a weasel, like he was just a slime ball, and he was just great, right? So like again, just so talented. When people actually like you or are a fan of you when you're a bad guy, you're really talented.
No, for sure. Yeah, Cody Deaner used to be a heel all the time, and he just getting fans. This is the first time I saw Cody Deaner do this, because normally when people are bad guys, they like bash the fans no matter what. But there's one time that I thought was just awesome. Cody's going, I hate you all, except you. You bought one of my shirts. You're cool." And it's like, damn. All right, give
Yeah.
props to that.
Well, I mean, like again, you've worked with Cody. Cody is, he's like one of the ultimate professionals. He lives and breathes the business, and he's one of the any locker room he's in, he's one of the leaders of the locker room. He's just so well experienced, and I've had tremendous experiences working with him. I always seem to fall on the short end of the stick one way or another. He always gets the best of me one way or the other, but he's one of the best out there. And then the stuff he does outside of the business for raise awareness and for bullying and and motivational speaking is just phenomenal. And like you said, he's an incredible talent, and he again, he's one of those guys that he just gets working a crowd, and he knows the important aspects. It's telling the story, and telling an emotional story with the fans, and then that's how they get him involved, right? So he has him with him the entire time, right? So and in people love that's why people love him, and that's why he's such a tremendous worker.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we should bring this up, but in Chatham, when I was managing you, and he kind of like beat the hell out of me. He took you out with the DDT, and then the kid that we threatened because it was his birthday, you're going to show him what a real birthday, spanking was. He got the kid to come and pin you.
Yeah. Well, like that's what happens when you're knocked out from the DDT is a finisher, right? And for a reason, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah. So especially his DDT, right? People don't kick out of that.
Yeah, but getting the fans involved like that, I just think that's awesome. Like that's something that Kill never forget.
No, and and we've done a lot of stuff for CCW, and a lot of those fair shows. And I remember we were at one fair show, and he got the kids to grab my arms, and then bought me on the head with one of those inflatable things. And then next thing you know, there's a lineup of like 30 kids. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get a lot of head bopping today, right? So they're all pulling on my arms, and all these kids are bopping me in the head with inflatable weapons, right? So yeah, they're gonna remember that. I mean, I guess it's a good lesson. Beat up the bully, right? So, right, but yeah, I mean, again, and it's about we were all once those kids, right? So watching that and knowing how special. I mean, like I said, my mom, and I told you this before. My mom brought me to the Maple Leaf Gardens for Maple Leaf Wrestling, and when I was a kid, right, and and being around and getting autographs from those larger than life guys. I mean, man, that's everything. Like, and I'm going to tell you a story about Roddy Piper, and this is working on the Masked Saint. And I saw him in the late '80s at Maple Leaf Wrestling, and he was just about to leave. And I said, Roddy, okay, so we're all screaming, Roddy, Roddy, and he looked back, and there was me and a couple other kids, and he knew he was going to get mobbed, right? He knew he was going to get mobbed, but he came back and he signed autographs for me and a couple other kids, and took some pictures. And that's something that I never forgot. Here's a guy that gave that time, and I will always do that for fans and for kids, because I was there once, and I know how much that meant to
Right.
me. And I told him that while we worked on the set of the Masked Saint. and he literally teared up, and we had to change the subject quick, and I was making fun of him, but so he didn't cry on me. I couldn't handle seeing Roddy Piper cry, because I love heel Piper better, right? So, but I told him that, and I told him how big of a lesson that taught me for the rest of my life. Whether it been where I was either doing wrestling or football, or how important it is to because you don't know how you're going to touch somebody, and so that was really important. So that, and then when I'm shows, I always, even if I'm a bad guy, I usually tend to be that, but you always make time for the fans, and for the kids, because especially because that's that's your market, first of all, but second of all, again, you don't know how something as little as that can make a huge difference in somebody's life. And so, like I said, it made a huge difference. It taught me a valuable lesson, and it's something I'm always grateful for, and hopefully I could share that with other kids growing up.
It's true. Yeah. I now you bring that up. I remember you carrying some of those kids around on your freaking 24-inch pythons, or however big they are now. I mean,
Yeah,
that's something that little can remember. It's
yeah, you got
fantastic.
pictures of that, right? And it's cool, right? So, and like
Yeah.
when even we're talking about Dieter's matches, and after the kids come in the ring, and that kid with the birthday party, he'll never forget that. That was probably the best birthday he's ever had in his life, right? So, like, hey, I got to pin this. He'll have pictures of that. Hey, look, I pinned this big monster, and I won a match on my birthday, right? So, that's something that's going to stay with him forever. And then, like I said, there was one of the fans that made that deal, like, do you want to go to the WWE? Yeah, but I love what
You're
I
kind of
do.
breaking up.
Oh, I said, like, I do love what I do, right? So even at a smaller level, is because you can touch people on any level, right? So that's the whole point.
Okay. We're nearing the hour mark. Anything you want to say to the fans that are out there that are watching, or that will watch this afterwards as well?
Well, again, so the big thing is, you want to, you can still catch the episodes of The Dark Side of the Ring. So if you haven't seen them yet, so you can go to Viceland or Crave, Viceland TV or Crave TV here in Canada to watch them. If you go to Viceland.com, they have the episodes on there. And again, I'm in several of the different episodes. The Last Ride of the Road Warriors, the Dr. Schultz episode, the Dino Bravo episode, Macho Man. Also, too, if you want to see some clips and highlights, go to my Instagram page, which is Rage Rob Thompson at Instagram, Facebook at Rob Rage Thompson. That's my athlete page, which I share as well, and Twitter at Rob Rage Thompson as well. Right. So, and then, just waiting for wrestling to start again. So we can talk about next time we get that I'm on. We actually talk about wrestling again. What we're doing in the ring. So that's hopefully things are opening up, and it looks like we turned the corner. So hopefully we can get back to live wrestling soon. So I'm still waiting for to get back in the ring at Crossfire Wrestling for that Optimus Awareness title. We've been waiting for that for quite some time. We get delayed for that. Big stuff that I'm going to be doing with CCW this year. Again, we're waiting to see what shows don't get postponed or canceled. More than likely, we're looking for late summer, early fall, but PWE as well. So a lot of stuff that we're waiting for it to come back that I'm looking forward to and to get back into it.
Right. And just to wrap up what you said, on your page where I got the videos. There's a lot more videos behind the scenes of you during the ring, how a lot of things were done, as well as photos of you dressed as both Hawk and Hulk, Mr. T as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff you can see. Just check out Rob Rage's page. It's scrolling down at the bottom. And how do we reach you if we want to talk to you? Just go to your page and say, "Hey, Rob,
Yeah.
everything's good."
So go to my Instagram page. You can go to my Twitter, or you can go to my Facebook page. Right. So for bookings, It has my email there as well, and for contact, for appearances. I don't just do wrestling, I do appearances as well. So I do a lot of that as well. So that's always an option. And yeah, just tune into all my social media. So especially Instagram. So Instagram's a big one where I post a lot of this stuff on, and then tend to share it on my other feeds. I see the Rage Mission. Yeah, you're looking. That's the most dominant move in wrestling right now. I see Bobby Lashley starting to copy it, right? So, it. You start doing the full Nelson. Well, there's only one Rage Mission, right? And we knew, and we already settled this with Chris Masters. I've mastered the master lock, right? I am the master of the full Nelson. We've already settled that. You saw Chris Masters getting laid out by the Rage Mission. You saw me break him with that. So I have the film. It's on YouTube. Check out Crossfire Wrestling. Where Chris Masters versus Rob Rage. I am the master of the full Nelson. No one else can do it the way I do it. It's called the Rage Mission. There's only one Rage Mission.
All right. I look forward to this ban being lifted. I want to come back to some of the shows, like watching you work, like working with you.
Absolutely, brother. Looking
and like
forward
filming
to
as well.
Yeah. So, and we'll
right. Thanks a lot for your time, Rob.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care. Thank you. You too. Thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And Rage Mission.